The movie begins introducing us to our protagonist, Tamara. Her day starts like any other as she awakens in the comfort of her bed. The soft hum of the radio fills the room with an unsettling news report about a missing woman from her very own town. Tamara, perhaps unsettled or just eager to get on with her day, promptly shuts off the radio and proceeds with her morning routine. As she steps out of her home, she's greeted by Jerry, a local policeman whose admiration for her is hard to miss. In a sweet gesture, he hands her a cup of freshly brewed coffee. He tentatively raises the topic of them spending more time together, suggesting another date. But Tamara gently turns him down, explaining that she's headed for a girls' getaway at the lake with her two best friends. Not wanting to keep them waiting, she hastens her departure. On her drive, she dials up her friends, Maddie and Brooke, giving them a heads up that she's running a bit behind schedule. Laughingly, she playfully instructs them not to start the fun, especially drinking, without her. But from the giggles and background noise, it's clear they've already begun the festivities. However, Tamara's journey hits a snag. Her car sputters and dies, the fuel gauge pointing to empty. Stranded, she spots an approaching vehicle. From it emerge two brothers, Merv and Kib. With a mix of caution and hope, she asks for their assistance. They kindly oblige, refilling her tank. During their brief interaction, Merv's curiosity gets the better of him, and he inquires about her destination. Once assured she's just headed to the lake with friends, the brothers wave her off and she continues on her way. Reunited with Maddie and Brooke at the picturesque lake, the atmosphere is thick with joy and anticipation. Soon, they're immersed in the lively scene of a local bar, laughing, dancing, and sipping on their drinks. But the night takes a darker turn when Merv and Kib make their entrance. In a sinister move, they discreetly slip a drug into one of the vodka shots and, with a smirk, instruct the bartender to serve them to the unsuspecting girls. The trio gladly accepts the drinks, with Tamara unknowingly consuming the spoiled one. As Maddie and Brooke dance away, Tamara starts to feel the effects of the drug. Dizzy and disoriented, she steps outside for fresh air, but her evening spirals further downward when Merv and Kib corner her. Before she can react, they abduct her, taking her to an unfamiliar location. When consciousness returns, Tamara finds herself bound and hanging from the ceiling in a deeply unsettling situation. As they start to undress her, Pa, the father, chillingly speaks of some divine plan for her. They hint at having done this to others before her. In a defiant act of resistance, Tamara invokes her family's legacy of cursing evildoers, reciting, "Let hell's wrath reigneth over, every pretty thing that you have taken will come back to you." This visibly unnerves the brothers, especially after Tamara reacts violently, vomiting on Kib. Leaving her in her tormented state, the three retreat outside. Kib expresses doubts about the curse, but Merv dismisses his fears. Back inside, with her strength waning, Tamara makes one last effort, using her phone's voice assistant to call Jerry. She manages to relay her trouble before her phone's battery depletes, leaving her fate hanging in the balance. Merv stands outside, enjoying a smoke when he suddenly notices the house door locked from the inside. Puzzled, he thinks it's Kib's doing and knocks to get in. As he waits, an eerie figure of a woman dressed in white drifts silently behind him, out of his notice. When Kib finally opens the door, he's just as surprised, saying he never locked it. Merv shrugs off the weird occurrence, grabs his car keys, and is about to drive away when the ghostly woman appears right in front of his car. Panicking, he speeds ahead, but she simply vanishes into the ground. Confused and rattled, Merv jumps out to inspect, but finds nothing. Trying to shake off his unease, he heads back home. The family gathers for dinner, a somber affair where their twisted idea of faith comes to the forefront. They say a prayer, thanking God for providing them with a soul, Tamara, whom they believe they'll soon send to him. After dinner, in a dark room, Pa opens a locker. Inside, a grim collection of hair from the numerous women they've preyed upon. Pa's morbid ritual gets interrupted by the blaring noise of a television. Frustrated, he criticizes his children for interrupting his post-dinner private time. But upon returning to his room, he's met with a horrifying sight, human bones scattered across his bed. Accusingly, he questions his sons. Kib immediately points fingers at Tamara, suspecting witchcraft. Pa, however, blames them for their poor graves, suspecting that's where the bones came from. Leaving Kib to clean up, Pa and Merv decide to confront Tamara. On inspecting, they find Tamara's restraints intact. When Pa angrily questions her about the bones, she merely responds with mocking laughter. Their interrogation is cut short by strange noises outside. Investigating, they return to find a mysterious drawing on the floor of Tamara's room. Disturbed, they hastily leave the room. Meanwhile, Jerry, having heard Tamara's alarming voicemail, grows deeply concerned. Unable to reach her, he heads straight to her house. Back in captivity, Kib tentatively approaches Tamara. Expressing a childlike curiosity, he admits he's never encountered a witch before. He chillingly recounts how they've sent girls to heaven, a grim term for murder. Revealing a deeply distorted belief, Kib says Pa convinced him that they're helping these girls become angels. However, with Tamara suspected to be a witch, Kib fears she'd birth demons instead. Tamara, sensing his vulnerability, tries to reason with him. She emphasizes that they're hurting innocent girls, not angels. Pleadingly, she asks to be set free. When Kib inquires if she's truly a witch, she firmly denies it. Relief washes over him, and in a moment of twisted tenderness, he kisses her forehead, assuring her of her place in heaven. As he departs, her pleas for him to return echo in the chilling room. While Merv drifts in a deep sleep, an eerie vision of a woman dressed in white slowly materializes next to him. As she moves closer, her fingers trail down his face, ending in a sudden, piercing scratch. A haunting scream rips through the quiet. Grabbing his nearby shotgun, he scans the room, but there's no trace of the ghost. Distraught, he summons Pa and Kib. They rush into Pa's bedroom and are met with a chilling sight. The wall, covered with posters of missing girls, now bears a haunting message written in red. "Do you miss us now?" Pa's face is streaked with blood, and he insists that Tamara is in league with the devil. He believes the malevolent spirits of their past victims have returned, and they are the reason behind these unsettling events. Dawn breaks, and with determination, the trio decides that it's time to rid Tamara of her demonic possession. They assemble makeshift exorcism tools, a small pool filled with what they believe to be holy water, and Pa clutches a Bible. As he begins chanting prayers, Merv and Kib forcefully dunk Tamara's head into the water. After several harrowing immersions, a gasping Tamara finally says she accepts God into her heart. Pa declares her purified, likening her to an angel. However, as they attempt to retie her, they notice strange symbols and crafts on the ceiling. Disturbed, Pa orders Kib to prepare a grave. Initially hesitant, Kib finally agrees after Pa's firm insistence that it's safer to bury an evil entity than to let it roam free. Kib sets off to dig. The scene then transitions to Jerry, who finds himself at the bar the girls had visited. He interrogates the bartender about the girls' night out. While recounting their lively evening, the bartender also mentions two men who bought them drinks. When probed further, the bartender gives a description that matches Merv and Kib. Jerry inquires about potential surveillance footage, but, disappointingly, the bartender reveals the cameras are mere dummies. Nonetheless, Jerry provides his contact details before departing. Back at the scene of Tamara's confinement, her exhaustion is palpable. As Kib diligently digs outside, Tamara musters her remaining strength and attempts to break free. Her efforts pay off, and she manages to loosen her restraints. Spotting Kib working, she equips herself with a nearby spading fork. As Kib approaches, realizing her escape, she warns him of her intent not to harm unless provoked. Kib, naively believing in his divine protection, says she can't harm him as he's saved. Tamara, seizing the moment, manipulates his beliefs, suggesting that perhaps he is, in fact, an agent of the devil. Challenging him, she proposes a test. If he sacrifices himself and truly belongs to God, he will ascend to heaven. In a sudden turn of events, Kib, seemingly in a trance, snatches the spading fork from Tamara's grip and plunges it into himself. Declaring himself an angel, he collapses lifelessly into the very pit he had dug for Tamara. Seizing the moment, Tamara snatches a knife from Kib's pocket and swiftly cuts through her bindings. Merv emerges from the house, sensing something amiss. His suspicions are confirmed when he spots the open door to the room where Tamara was held. His gaze shifts, and he spots Tamara making her escape from the pit. Not wasting a moment, he gives chase, only to be stopped dead in his tracks at the sight of Kib's lifeless body. While the sight is tragic, his determination to capture Tamara pushes him forward. Within the house's gloomy interiors, Pa sits alone, deep in thought. He's jolted out of his contemplation by a faint voice calling his name. Venturing outside, he's met with the tragic sight of his fallen son, Kib. As grief momentarily clouds his vision, a vision of a woman in white appears at a distance. Before he can process this, she's right before him, letting out an unearthly scream. The sheer fright sends Pa spiraling into unconsciousness. Unbeknownst to him, the ghostly figures are none other than Maddie and Brooke, who proceed to drag him into the house. Meanwhile, a desperate chase ensues outside. As Tamara reaches a high rock, she waits in ambush for Merv. Armed with her knife, she launches herself at him. A tussle ensues. Merv, leveraging his strength, gains the upper hand, but a well-aimed strike with a rock by Tamara knocks him out. With Merv incapacitated, Tamara hauls him back to the house, placing him beside the unconscious Pa, Maddie, and Brooke. Now revealing their sinister intentions, bind the two men to crosses. As they regain consciousness, Merv, panic evident in his eyes, accuses Tamara of being in league with the devil. The two girls, amused, stuff their underwear into Merv and Pa's mouths, revealing that they've been watching the trio since the beginning, baiting their trap, setting the stage for a wicked game called 16 Angels, named after the number of girls the three men had murdered. They give Pa and Merv just 16 seconds to free themselves before they'd enact their revenge. In a frantic bid, Pa manages to free himself and desperately tries to help Merv. However, time is not on their side. Shots ring out, alerting Jerry, who was on patrol nearby. Racing to the scene, Jerry witnesses Merv, now free, lunging at the two girls with murderous intent. Analyzing the situation, Jerry perceives the girls as innocent victims and takes down Merv. Playing their roles perfectly, Maddie and Brooke act the part of traumatized survivors. The movie draws to a close with Jerry escorting the girls to safety, their sly smiles exchanged in the shadows, revealing their dark victory.